Alright y'all, here's the other property. It goes about 200 foot that way, and as you can see, it's all palmetto scrub and oak scrub. There's a fair amount of trash when you go in here, and I think this is the only easy property entrance. Through this little trail here. The neighbor's dog drags trash across the road and spreads it over here to eat, and then the neighbors don't ever pick it up. So makes the land kind of when you walk out here. A lot of people would kind of get turned off by that kind of thing. I kind of knew about it before I bought the place, but I was looking at old Google Maps and didn't remember the neighborhood that well, and I thought there were more pine trees on it when I bought it than what there is now. So instead of pine trees, I pretty much got a whole pile of oak trees, which, that's alright. I was planning on cutting the pine trees down and making timber, but now I've got oak trees, and well, you can make timber out of it, but it's it's a bit of a chore to do it. So those are probably just going to get cut down and maybe sold for firewood, because I do need operating funds. And Florida's kind of funny about firewood. There ain't very many places that sell it, and so if you get in with a barbecue restaurant, you can sell them quite a bit pretty quick, and they'll buy it. So as you can see, it's lots of vegetation. Like I was saying, turning this into carbon content for good soil for animals and plants is probably going to be the way to go. Ooh, spider. It's a big web too. Anyway, as you can see, there's a bunch of old junk out here and trash everywhere on the place. It's going to take me a while to clean all that up. And I don't expect for this place to get up and running too quick unless I get a loan. And as you can see, doing all that by hand and digging all them palmetto bushes out by hand, that is not going to be feasible, at least not this year. I need to hire somebody with mulching equipment, and they need to come in here and be able to do it professionally, and perhaps even knock all the big trees down and stump grind them for me. So we're talking about at minimum a $2,000 cost, and with all the stump grinding probably another $2,000. So yeah, I paid $47.50 for the property, but at the same time I'm going to end up paying a little bit more for land clearing. And this kind of scrub, you can't just put it on fire and light it. It won't burn quite as easy as pine scrub, because the oak leaves just put a fire out. That's all they do. So it's not like I could just come in here and burn most of it off and then come back through and clean it up, you know, which would be the easiest way. So anyway, but the good news is that's a lot of compostable stuff, and as you can see, the soil here is pretty much sand. It's got some minerals in it, that's why it's gray, but if it doesn't have enough compost and carbon on the soil, vegetation won't grow very well. And if the vegetation doesn't grow very well, the animals won't do very good because they won't have enough forage, and I'll have to buy a lot of feed. So we're going to turn this into good ag land, and it's just going to take a little bit, you know. And sometimes, you know, people always say buy a better piece of property or whatever. And that is a good idea, but sometimes just having the land itself can get you the loan that you need because you have equity. And this place is paid for, and my other place is paid for. And that might not be enough equity for what I want to do, but the banks will at least look at it, you know? They'll at least look at it and say, okay, well, you got 2 properties you can put up for collateral, and you got a retirement account or whatever, you know, and they'll think about it, you know? Where if I don't have nothing and I'm trying to buy a more expensive property, the seller might not even want to owner finance it to you. So this one was not owner financed. I paid cash for it. So that's what we'll see how that turns out. And that was the reason why I bought this place. I initially thought that I was going to be able to cut the trees down and build a house out of it. But I was out of town when I bought it, which, you know, I knew where it was and I knew it was high and dry. And I had driven by it a couple times and saw some pine trees from the road. And I looked at the Google Maps and it looked like there was a bunch of pine trees on it. But I guess those maps were 20 years old or something, because what's here now and what was here is 2 different things. And it's very obvious. It's very, very obvious that it doesn't have pine trees on it like I thought. I mean, there's 1 or 2, but I figured all that vegetation was pine. And I've already bought a chainsaw mill, and I was going to chainsaw mill most of it. But it looks like I might end up just building some furniture or selling firewood for a little side thing as I go. If I can't get anybody to finance me a loan. But anyway, that's the other property, and it's about 200 foot long by about 100 foot wide. And not exactly, because the property lines are aren't exactly square, but that's all right. So, yep, should be a good deal. It kind of slopes from upland all the way down, and I don't really want to walk in there right now because it's raining, but there's a sinkhole or a pond or something. There's a low point down in the bottom. I think it's an old sinkhole. So the land has all got a good slope to it. It's not wetland. It'll be pretty good for sheep. They won't really have too bad of problems with their feet or anything like that because it's getting wet. And ducks will have a little place to maybe swim. So yeah, these railroad ties are roughly about where another property starts. Let's see if I can walk back in here. And that telephone pole is up there is where the other end of the property is. Oh, these palmettos make really good compost, and they decompose fast. I almost half thought about just cutting them down by hand and composting all that with a chipper shredder. And getting through all this is going to be fun with flip-flops. Only Florida boy walked through palmetto bushes with flip-flops on. Yep. So yeah, that's the low point up there that I was talking about. It's not wet, but it's just a low spot. It doesn't even look like there's any wetlands back there. You know, they had palmettos growing right out the middle of it, and whatever. We'll find out what that is later. It's not really. You can't really walk through it right now, and that's the bad part about Florida is if the land is not taken care of and maintained, and humans aren't keeping up with it, it gets like that where you can't walk through it. Now I really like old Florida, and that's why I bought in this town that I'm moving to. But I don't really care for new Florida with all the brand new homes and all that stuff. But old Florida with agriculture is really nice, because that means human beings have taken care of the land, and you can walk on it and do things with it, look at it, where this is what you get when you don't do nothing to it, and it's not kept up by a forestry service or anything like that, and it's a waste of dirt, you know. I mean, environmentalists like it because it creates a lot of good species diversification, they call that. But it's bad because you've got invasive things like them palmettos, which those are native, but they're also invasive. And then you've got like bamboo on the other property. That property wasn't kept up, and the bamboo went wild. And in some cases, you'll get real bad sawgrass. Florida used to have sawgrass patches that were really large.